I'm Tony Anderson with Sports Seriously, and joining me is a very special guest, former NBA player and current commentator Matt Barnes, producer on this awesome doc Revolution. But Matt, I want you to talk to me about the project and what it means to you.
Revolution has been about almost a 4 or 5 year project. We picked it up the summer I was deciding whether I was going to retire or not. Both got really busy, but reconnected on the project, I'd say maybe a year and a half ago. And the goal was really just to show the other side of people. You know, I think me in particular, there's a narrative about who I was as a player. Enforcer, thug, you name it, bad guy, I heard it. But at the same time, I was doing a lot of stuff off the court that was kind of going against the narrative, kind of really showing who I am, whether it be charitable causes, trying to get guns off the streets, giving people opportunities in the cannabis space. So I really felt like, although I was doing good, it didn't fit the narrative for the media to put that out there at the time. So I really feel like Revolution is kind of just really showing who I am as a person. But also I still always am evolving as a man. So I know my story is obviously my story, but I'm sure and you'll come to find that, you know, the other athletes we use in this story have similar experience of just kind of really having a narrative out there, but then also really kind of showing who they are as a person.
Man, I absolutely look forward to checking out this doc. Now, talk to me about using your platform to humanize players. You talked a little bit about that in the doc. LeBron recently called out the media for not giving Jerry Jones the same energy they gave Kyrie. Speaking for players currently, do you agree with LeBron? Is it a double standard?
Absolutely, 1,000%. And you can also add Robert Sarver, the Phoenix Suns owner. You can also add Brett Favre. You know, all these guys made headlines for crazy things, but it was here one day and gone literally the next. And you see, obviously, the Kyrie situation has dragged out for some time now. Recently, he just lost his Nike deal. And whether you agree with Kyrie or disagree with Kyrie, he was definitely treated a lot different. And the consequences were a lot more severe from a standpoint of, you know, the list of things he had to do, losing deals left and right. So I agree with LeBron wholeheartedly. It's unfortunate that, again, when an African-American makes a mistake, it's screamed at the top of the mountain. And when other people make a mistake, it's, oh, you shouldn't have did that, but let's carry on, you know?
Indeed. Talk to me as a former player. What advice would you have given Kyrie about some of the things that he's done in the past?
It's just tough. You know what I mean? Again, Kyrie is his own man. And, you know, I have no qualms with someone who decided not to get vaccinated. I chose to get vaccinated, but fully respected everyone's opinion on that and how they wanted to proceed with their body. So obviously he missed time with that. And then you come back with this, you know, film that he, you know, publicized on his platform. And I look at it more from a player standpoint, being in a locker room and really kind of just a fan of the game. The outside noise was taking over how brilliant he was on the court and the ability to have him on the court. And when you're talking about a locker room and a team, someone of Kyrie's caliber, you want him as much as you possibly can, you know, on the court. And I just felt like the things he was doing, again, whether you agree or disagree with them, was really taking him away from basketball. And the reason why Kevin Durant went to Brooklyn was to play with Kyrie. So I kind of looked at it different. You know, obviously everyone has an opinion on kind of what's going on and what he said and what he did. And, you know, that's obviously a deeper conversation. But at the end of the day, you know, as a fan of the game now and someone who competed against him, I just want to be able to see him on the court more than we've seen him in the past few years.
Matt, does it create friction in the locker room when you have somebody such as yourself, somebody such as LeBron, some guys who are absolutely outspoken against social injustice issues, and then you have players who really don't want to get involved in that, right? Like I think about Derek Jeter, who really didn't say much about anything. He played and you really didn't hear much from him outside of that. Does that create friction in the locker room?
Luckily, I never really ran into a situation like that, to be honest with you. You know, obviously, I was a part of the Clipper team with the Donald Sterling situation where, you know, he lost his team. But one thing I will say, you know, is Doc Rivers, the head coach at the time, really kind of wanted to be the shield for all of that. And whether you wanted to speak on it or not, he just thought as a team we shouldn't speak on it. You know what I mean? So that was really the only situation I went through. You know, and locker rooms are always evolving and always changing, obviously with younger players. But again, I think if I were to speak from an outside of someone who's been in there but it's not in there now, I don't necessarily think it does. You know, again, if you are someone who is comfortable speaking out and being a part of the movement, great. If you're not, I'm sure you have your reasons. And again, there could be a little bit of, man, he should be speaking up. But at the same time, again, I think as men, we respect everyone equally. And, you know, as long as you're out there, you know, at the end of the day, putting in work on the court when we're working, I think that's where the, you know, kind of the dysfunction will be. But, you know, as far as political views or, you know, social activism, I don't really think that would cause a divide in the locker room because one guy's for it and another guy isn't.
Indeed, man. Now, I want to talk about you and what you have going on personally. Matt, you're a player who's actually made the successful shift from former player to now commentator. You know, we're seeing a shift where other people are trying to do that as well. What would you say the relationship is between current NBA players and the media?
It's a tough one because I feel like more than ever we live in a day and age where it's not about if you have to critique or kind of nitpick things. It's crossed the line, and I speak from a media standpoint now, and I don't like it because I was a former player, but it's crossed the line, and it's more personal attacks now, and it's more disrespect, and I don't like that at all. I think people should understand how tough it is to be a professional athlete or an actor or a musician, and I just feel like across the board now, when people come to critique people who, you know, are kind of at the top of the, you know, top of the chain, so to speak, it's more personal, it's more disrespect. And I don't like that because as a man, if you won't say it to my face, how can I respect that? And a lot of these media personalities will, you know, have their chest out saying the most disrespectful things on TV, and someone walks up to them and, you know, they act like a little child. So I'm not necessarily for it. I think it's unfortunate, but I also think why that's important for former athletes that can transition to really give that point of view of what it's like to, you know, no matter what, and you know, with all due respect to Stephen A. Smith, as great as he is across, you know, several verticals in the sports world, he can't tell you what it's like to be in the locker room, what it's like to have to knock a free throw down to put the game into overtime, what it's like to win a game 7 in advance. You know what I mean? So I really think it's on athletes, if this is your space and you're able, because not all athletes can make this crossover in the media space, but if you can, I think we kind of have an obligation to our brothers and sisters to kind of tell it from an actual athlete's point of view, because all the stories about us that are made about us and told about us are normally told from someone else's perspective who's never been there. So I think it's always important to tell the perspective that's been there, but also then again, I think fans appreciate it because they know we've been through the war, so to speak, and we know what it's really like to, again, come across all those situations I just named because we were in those situations as professional athletes.
All right, now we got to talk some actual NBA hoops. The Lakers, they're doing better as of late, Matt, but not up to LA standards. I want to ask you this, is AD's prime being wasted?
No, I don't think AD's prime is being wasted. And I think, you know, unfortunately, we live in a world where you don't have time to bring things together. I mean, this team is getting a new roster every single year. They got a brand new coach, but they're the Lakers, so excellence is expected. I think it would. I thought it would take time for this to come together. Last year, we didn't get a chance to see the big three together enough. This year, we have them, and they're healthy somewhat. But at the same time, there was an issue with Russ starting in that group. So I really credit Darvin Ham for being able to get Russell Westbrook to buy into his role, and Russ is excelling in that role now, and a very important member of that team. My other thing was the ability to have LeBron and AD on the same page at the same time. And is AD going to be aggressive enough for LeBron to give him the keys? I think LeBron wants to give AD the keys, but in the past he hasn't been aggressive enough and demanded the ball like he's done over this last 10-11 game stretch where he's arguably been the best player in the world. And that's not to say Bron's not going to do his thing, but that AD's going to have to be the workhorse for this team to have a chance to really, get in the playoffs and make some noise.
Let's go to the East Coast. Ben Simmons is struggling. Would you call him a bust?
No, absolutely not. I think Ben Simmons is hurt. Ben Simmons is getting his knee drained constantly, and if you're an athlete, you know how tough that process is and how painful it is to have your knee drained. So I just feel like he's not healthy yet. I think after taking time off, it's going to take a while for him to get back from his back, and now his knee is acting up. But I think when Ben Simmons is healthy, he can definitely help that team. And I just feel like overall that team has really kind of come together and kind of rallied behind all the stuff that Kyrie is kind of going through. I know they're happy to have him back in the locker room and focused on basketball. And I think if Ben Simmons can get healthy, he can still be a key contributor to that team.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to watch more sports seriously, be sure to check out these clips right here. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all the great content from us here at USA Today Sports.